Hello, this is Sibbles and Bits, and today we're here with InB4Blood, a series dedicated to discussion and discovery of Back 4 Blood in a post-beta pre-launch state. Today we're here on FortHope.gg talking about Evangelo. FortHope.gg is a community-made deck building site that allows you to fiddle around with the mechanics of the game, get a look at everything that's in there, what you can do, even send builds to your friends. It's important to note that FortHope.gg is using alpha statistics. Cards have changed from here to the beta, and they are likely going to change from the beta to the base game. But still, we should have enough in here to talk about Evangelo. The second thing I want to clarify is that in this game, even though you have a specific character, it does not mean that you are tied to a specific role, because of the fact that over the course of the game, you're going to have access to 15 of these cards, and that's what's going to determine what you're doing for your team. With that out of the way, we're going to talk about Evangelo's passive. Evangelo can break out of grabs once every 60 seconds, and then it's also important to note that he gets plus 75% breakout speed. Breaking out of grabs is very important in this game. It's also very important in other horde-based games, and in one in particular, in Left 4 Dead, not having to rely on your teammates to save you was so sought after, this became a mod. In this game, we have items called stun guns. They take your quick slot, you get grabbed, you can press the button with the stun gun and break out. Evangelo doesn't even need to use stun guns so long as he doesn't get grabbed twice every 60 seconds. Now it's important to note that there are 4 enemies in this game that can grab you. You can easily encounter 2 or more of them, and then on top of that, you can encounter multiple of the same type of enemy at a time. As you get later in a campaign, they'll spawn like, say, 5 crushers on you. Regardless, Evangelo is able to do a lot of risky plays because of this passive here. He also gets 25% stamina regen and 5% movement speed. So, on first glance, you're looking at Evangelo and you're like, okay, so this is Mr. Solo. I'm going to go off, do my own thing. If anything bad happens, I can always ghost my team and just run off on my own. You got to be careful, because obviously that can be bad for your team, but it's also not a bad idea in some instances. Evangelo can be a pretty good Plan B character. If you know the safe house is nearby, one of your teammates accidentally sets off like 2 or 3 hazards, you've got 2 or 3 hordes now coming in at you. You can go ahead, just book for the safe room, so long as you don't get grabbed twice in that time frame, or you've got stun guns to mitigate the cooldown. You might actually be able to make it into the safe room and clutch the round. And that's very important because you can only lose 3 times in a run before it's game over. Now, you may not get a large copper bonus for losing teammates, but at least you made it, and that's important. Now, another thing to note about Evangelo is that stamina regen and movement speed doesn't really seem like a lot, especially 5% movement speed, when this card right here pretty much, it even gives you 20 stamina regen and 3% movement speed. This is pretty much Evangelo, right? However, movement speed's very important in this game. There are instances where you have to run into an area to deactivate an unlimited horde. Movement speed's good for that. Stamina regen means that you're running more. There are even instances where you might accidentally trigger a horde and you're out in the open. Movement speed allows your team to get back to a more defensible position and have a much easier time defending. Other than that, though, unlike most other characters, Evangelo can't necessarily leverage this stamina regen in order to do other things. One thing that he can do is take Wellfed. Pretty much gets rid of your stamina regen. Gives your whole team plus 10 health. This is Walker's passive. But you also, have the free stun guns technically. And the team movement speed. That's pretty good. Otherwise, you start getting into stuff here. And again, these could change over to regen in the base game. But you can trade stamina for health. You can trade stamina efficiency for damage and bullet penetration, healing efficiency. You're going to have to work it out on your own if stamina efficiency, stamina, and stamina regen are interchangeable, and how much of one you're willing to get rid of in order to get other benefits. And you can't really get rid of movement speed. But I should also probably point out that there are corruption cards that will put a time limit on your team. Sometimes it's the ability to earn more money if you complete a chapter in, like, let's say 5 minutes. Over 5 minutes, 5% movement speed's a lot. And it applies to your whole team too, so it's not like you're leaving people behind either. Another thing it can do is start putting timed hordes. So normally in this game, you only have hordes at specific areas, and if you hit hazards, which are generally everywhere. If you have timed hordes now, you can be punished just for taking longer in a map, and having movement speed will get you out of there faster, and possibly eliminate 1 or 2 of those. Now, since I stated that the stamina regen can't necessarily be exchanged for stuff as well as other characters, doesn't mean that Evangelo's technically not as versatile, or versatile at all, I should say, because of the fact that he's got this breakout ability, and that enables him to do risky plays. You can be a sniper with Evangelo up on a truck, aiming down, just trying to pick off mutations before they get to your team. There's an enemy in this game called the Hawker that will shoot a projectile. If it hits you, it'll lock you up, and your teammates have to melee you in order to break you out, because it's not an enemy that has technically grabbed you. So, in a normal scenario, you get hawked up on a truck. Your allies have to try and find out how they're going to get up on that truck during a horde in order to bash you free and free you. You're going to take a lot of damage. Evangelo is fine. He doesn't even technically have to use a stun gun for it. Another thing that Evangelo can do, and this is an important clarification here, every time you break out, you stun the enemy. Technically it's a stumble, but it's pretty much the same thing. You can grab defense on Evangelo. A crusher starts coming at your team, has one of the highest health pools in the game. You run up to that crusher, purposefully get grabbed, break out instantly. That crusher is now stunned and free for your team to just drill into it. That's pretty good. So now you're technically a tank as Evangelo. And since you're breaking out faster, you're not even really going to take that much damage as you're doing it. Anyways, that's all I have to say about Evangelo, but you might have extra stuff. If you have any comments, clarifications, corrections, you can go ahead and put those down in the comments below. Otherwise, if you have any crazy builds that you're planning to do with Evangelo, you can leave that down there as well. Otherwise, I'll catch you guys with the next video. Until then.